All right, this is a little lesson on modes, playing modally, modes of the major scale. It seems to be sort of a vexation for a lot of guitar players and musicians maybe in general. A lot of that is the way it's taught. They teach you that the modes are just, playing, say, the G major scale from A to A, or Phrygian would be B to B. And you come away with that information thinking, what possible use is that? It just sounds like you're just teaching me a different fingering for the scale, the major scale. So if you're in G and you're playing G, C, D, and what good is it to play A Dorian over G? It doesn't sound any different than playing G. So the trick is to reverse the thinking, and you have to think of the chords, the harmony, the tonality of a tune, and what's really going on with modes is, or a modal song, is that you're playing in a key. You're using the notes from a key, but you're never really focusing on the tonic or the one chord. And you're staying away from it on purpose to affect a sort of mood or spirit or ambience. And a lot of this modal type playing got started, in ancient church music to sort of affect a mood or a spirit in the worshipers, the people who are meditating. So modes made a big comeback with jazz in the 50s and then in 60s pop music. So when you play modally, again, you're staying away from the home key. So let's take, say, Moon Dance for an example. Now the only key that those three chords are in, A minor, B minor, 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C6. The only key that those are in is G, but the song never goes to G, so something's up, something's vague and mysterious. And when things are mysterious, it draws a listener in, especially if you're a young kid getting started with this stuff and your teachers are telling you one thing and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And so you start doing your own investigation, sort of backwards engineering things from what you already know. And you find out, well, it's not in the key of G major because it doesn't sound major. It seems silly to say it's in G major. Some people will say it's in A minor, but if you try to play A minor scale, that F clashes with the F sharp. Later on, the song does go to D minor, which has an F natural. And so there, for the chorus, you're more in A minor, strictly speaking, which is a totally different key from G. Well, one note different. So you're in Dorian for one part of the song, A Dorian, because A is the second mode of G. But on here, you're more strictly in A minor. So on and so forth. So you listen to the... Now, if you don't know your modal fingerings, you're fine. Just play the parent scale, G major, over that. So on and so forth. Now there are cases later on where you need to know the fingerings, and so one thing you have to distinguish is when a song is modal, when a song has modal sections, and when it's convenient just to grab a mode for one chord that's a little bit out of the key here and there. And so today I'm just gonna talk about modal tunes as much as my iPhone will let me before it runs out of storage. So here's one. I made a couple of recordings. That's a modal tune that you might not think of as being modal. Chris Isaacs, I did a lot of gigs with Chris Isaac back in the 90s and also with his bass player and drummer. Played a lot together out in California and on some television shows, whatnot. So this song is, B minor, A, E. Now it's in it uses only chords and notes from the key of A. B minor doesn't have an E chord. E major doesn't have a B minor. So A does have a B minor and A has an E. So but we don't want to say it's an A major because it doesn't sound like a major key. But that's what the key signature would say. So now I'm sitting there using the A major scale, but it doesn't sound major. So let's listen to a little of that with the guitar going on in the background.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The idea. So, you know, if you don't know your B Dorian or your E Mixolydian, just play the A major scale. You're going to get the same sound. So it's not really the fingering that you use or the group of notes. Well, it is the group of notes, but you don't need to really think about B Dorian or E Mixolydian. You can just play A major and just try to grab notes that are sympathetic to the particular chord you're on. Or, you know, you can also just blow through the scale a little bit, sound like a little flamenco-ish. So here's another one that's modal. The old Michael Kiwanuka tune. Now this one changes. The Chris Isaak stays on the same 3 chords the whole song. So it's modal all the way through. Now this one is 2, but they change the modes. They stay in the same key or key signature, but they go from A Dorian to G major. And so you tell me a tale, the da 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 da, and then on the chorus da 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 da. Now on this recording, I'm not sure where I changed the mode, so I have to listen to it pretty close. But so, you know, G major on this section and A Dorian on this section. But if you don't know the A Dorian fingering, just play G major the whole time. And it's not going to sound, over the first section, it's not going to sound like G major. It's going to sound like A Dorian, even if you don't know, you know, that you're playing A Dorian. Okay, so here it comes.
1, 2,
so Dorian,
3, 4.
I'll just play the G major. Major. All the same notes. Major, then back to Dorian. So again, it's you know, it's the chords or the harmony or the tonality that's going on behind the melodies and embellishments and solos. That's what gives you the tonal sound. Another example of a song. Now this one switches keys and modes. Is do do da do da do da do da 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 da. So A minor, D, the only key that those 2 chords are in is G major. When they go to G though, they hit G minor. Then A minor, the only key that those 2 chords are in is F or D minor, if you prefer. So you get the F there, or B minor, and then back to A Dorian. That's a good one. You know, there's no solo in the tune, but you might do some embellishments or sometimes stretch songs out. People will put solos in. Here's a really good one. Listen to these two chords. Now, you would never say that that sounds like a major key. So, but those two chords, the only key that those two chords belong to is C. Each chord belongs to, many other keys in some place or another. But as a group of chords, E minor, F, C is the only key that has those two chords. So, and E is the 3. The mode that's associated with the 3 is Phrygian. The mode associated with the 4 is Lydian. Let's say you don't know either one of those fingerings. Now, I don't mess with Phrygian, to tell you the truth, much. Lydian I use all the time. Phrygian usually isn't something you settle on a whole lot. And so you can just, it will just, I should say the chords don't usually tend to move around much in Phrygian. So you can just find the parent scale and just play that the whole time. So for instance, let's say I'm in C. And I'm playing the major scale, C major. Sounds very happy, very major, okay? But I'm going to play the same scale over these chords. Let me find this guy right here. Let's see. Okay, so listen to this. I'm going to play that same C major fingering.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That certainly doesn't sound like the key of C major, even though those two chords belong to that key. Your ear will identify E as home base because it has nothing else to go on. It knows your brain is doing the math in the background, and it knows that something else is home base, but you're never going there. And that's great information if you're writing songs too. If you want to affect a mood and get across something like that, modes are really valuable. Now here's another example. Let's see, what do I have here? Let's just say you write a song that goes D to C. Perfectly valid chord progression. Are you in D or C? Well, you're in neither. The only key that has those two chords is G. Let's say the song never goes to G, and you don't know C Lydian or D Mixolydian fingers. Just play G major and find notes that work. Okay, so let's try that one.
1, 2,
Whoops,
3.
wrong song. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Can kind of sound very Western Mixolydian. Again, I'm just playing standard old G major fingering. If you hit the G, it sort of blows the feel or the vibe of the song or the mood. One more. Now here's one. Let's say you're playing A major, F major. Those two chords aren't in the same key, so you have to kind of split the difference. So if you play A major and you play F, you've changed two notes. The C sharp has to go to C, and the F sharp has to go to F. Now there's one remaining note, and that's the G sharp from the A. It doesn't seem like you have to change it, but since that F is heavily borrowed from the key of A minor, G is gonna sound better. So there you have to make sort of a choice, an artistic choice. And you know, it's pretty easy because the G sharp sounds pretty bad over that F. And even when you go back to A, it doesn't sound good. Let me see. So I'm gonna play A mixolydian to get the G sharp to G. And I'm gonna play A minor over the F because that chord is heavily borrowed from A minor. So I'm playing two different modes, A mixolydian to handle the A, and over the F, I'm going to play A minor. Okay, so let's see here what we got going on.
1, 2, 3, 4.
See that G sound? I didn't make that one very long, but you get the idea. You can almost hear those chords. I think I just played a G sharp there. Oops. Anyone can figure this stuff out. You just have to have some curiosity, and if you're a creative musician, and you know, a lot of times people who, you know, there should be some sort of interest in like what's kind of going on behind all these songs that have these vague, mysterious sounds. So modes are abstract, conceptual, a little bit hard to pin down, but basically you just need to take a look at your chords and ask yourself what key, what parent key I'm in, and play that scale. Now, I'm not covering today how to quickly grab a modal fingering on one chord on a fast jazz tune, or even very rarely country tunes. I don't know any modal country tunes, but there are definitely places where you can use a mode, like on a 2 major chord, you can use that 2 chords mixolydian scale. Or I've been throwing horseshoes over my left shoulder. On that A minor, you're changing from D, you're changing one note out of the key for that C natural. So right there you can go and you can play, there's your D major. D mixolydian gives you that C versus the C sharp that you're going to get on the A. Okay, that's it for today. I mean, mode, there's a lot more to cover with modes, but that's the part that clears up this sort of mysterious aspect about them. You need to think about the chords, the harmony, the mood of the song, and if you don't know all your modal fingerings, you can just play the parent scale. And then if you're starting to play jazz, more tricky stuff, or classical, then you're probably going to need to know your modal fingerings. I know pretty well Ionian, that's major, Dorian. I don't mess around with Phrygian much because I just find the parent scale. I know, you know, Lydian, Mixolydian, and Aeolian, which is minor, you know, I use all the time. So I've learned those fingerings way back. Locrian, the 7th, I just play the major scale a half step higher because it's you know, that 7th chord as a diminished in any key. It comes up fairly rarely, and it's easy enough to just see that chord sitting there and see the major scale a half step higher, or the major fingering. Okay, that should cover it for today. It's a valuable songwriting tool, and it really puts across a different ambience or mood or vibe in a song. So